Yeah, it's rich in bubbly goodness.
Do you remember when you lost your passion for this work?
I invited another friend. I hope that's okay.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the channel. I'm Reina Creole, bringing you that spice to sci-fi and pop culture analysis. And yes, I am in a different studio, in a different location. I'm down here in sunny Florida, where it finally finished storming and raining for the over the past hour. So I'm so glad to be here with all of you, and so glad I got my co-host. And let's see if I can freaking do this right.
What the hell?
Okay. Well, I screwed that up.
What the hell? What the hell? He's like, here's my new co-host, and there's Cameron. Well, that's been nice being here. You guys have fun. Cameron finally got what he wanted, to be the co-host to a beautiful, intelligent
Well, that's
woman.
how you succeed in Hollywood.
I'm going to Denny's.
You just do the Sith thing, man. You knock the other guy out of the way. That's how you do it.
Yeah. But we still love you.
Like that. This is what it says. I really need that cool intro. I have a new co-host.
Oh, well, that's how the game works.
Dear MySpace. Tom, are you as lonely as I am with rejection?
I'm going to claim I'm still getting used to my new studio. So that's my story. I'm sticking with it. But Kamran, so glad to have you back on the show again. Always love having you here. And like I said in the back, you must be like divinely anointed, because every time I have you on, some major story just like drops in the fandom that we have to talk about.
God wants you to have a great show, and I hope I can help provide that.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
You're already there.
Are you he's like talking to himself.
Give him a cupcake. He'll be fine.
Okay.
He'll be fine.
My dearest Antoinette, it has been but a fortnight now.
Well, let me see who else is in the chat here with us. Let's see. We have Snortopoopas Cuber, who says, hello, humans and other critters. Well, hello, and glad to see you too, Snortopoopas. And we have who says, hello, everyone. Well, hello to you too. And thanks to you and Snortopoopas for being channel members. I so appreciate that. We have Stephanie Janicek, Smuggler's Cantina, who says, hey, hello, my dear. Always good seeing you here. Glad you're here with us. And we have Keely Chow, who says, hey, everybody. Hello. And Roll Tide, of course. I always have to say that when I see Keely Chow. We have Gunsmoke, who I don't think I've seen here before. Says, hi, Chad. Well, hello to you. Glad you're here joining us for the show. And let's see, who else do we have in here? We have D. Bud Markin, looking gorgeous as usual, the Reina Creole. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate the compliments. I'm going to appreciate those compliments when I'm old and in my rocking chair in the nursing home, being a pain in the butt to the male nurses. So that's gonna stick with me. Thank you. And let's see who else we have. We have Just a Passerby. And you know what, Just a Passerby, we'll ask Kamran this question as soon as I get through the rest of the chat. So I will not forget about it. And if by chance I do, just say, hey, you forgot my question, Lorraine. Let's see, we have, that's a cupcake and a can of Crisco.
What the hell? Is that Mark?
No, that's Snortopoopas. That's Snortopoopas. Okay, hey, CJ, I'm here and not here. Running from the kitchen and back and forth. Well, dude, I'm glad you're lurking here, kind of, sort of. Cool. Glad you're here with us.
I have a question. Can we set up a new tier for Snortopoopas alone, and we can call it the neutered tier? Because those polar bears love neutering.
I guess.
All right, there you go.
I think Steven Seagal is in a very interesting place today. You seem to be in an interesting place. And then we're gonna.
I'm in a great mood. Actually, I'm very calm, very level-headed. I don't sound stressed. It's been pretty cool.
We're gonna flow with it.
Yeah, we're gonna go with it. We're gonna go with it. Hey, Kaylee D. She says, "Hey, good to see you too, my dear. Always love seeing you. Always so full of positivity. Love that. Love that."
Wait, whoa. There's one thing. Have you been watching her on Twitter?
I have not. My Twitter is just so slammed.
I
brought
follow
this.
her. I've
I
seen
brought. Have you seen her? She seems like the very most positive, very caring girl. But she's laying the smackdown like stone cold on these people on Twitter. They're coming up with like hate replies and stuff. She's not just nice.
You don't
She
mess
has
with Kaylee. I figured that out.
no, she's the stone
Oh
cold.
yeah, I've seen that. Sometimes you just have to do that. Sometimes you have to go there with certain people. I had to go there with someone like that today, and I rarely do it, but sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to. So Kaylee, I'm gonna have to go back in your Twitter timeline with some popcorn to see you lay the smack down on people. Hey, Krypton7I78 says Insta Watch. Well, thank you so very much. I appreciate that. Real Weight Nation says you all look great. Well, thank you. Thank you so very much. Thank you. Cameron, of course, is very handsome. Bat Stephen is
Thank you
as
very much.
well. As well. Love being around handsome men, especially ones that have cupcakes in tow as well. Like that too. Yes, that's right. Latest SmackDown on SJWs on Twitter. Sometimes they're not just SJWs. Sometimes they're just,
Idiots.
exactly. Exactly.
There tends to be a large overlap.
There kind of does. It's just sometimes it's like, folks, just remember Twitter is not real. It's not real life. And, you can't sometimes, the characters that they give you isn't enough to sometimes get the point across. So sometimes if it's kind of off, don't immediately go for someone's jugular. Hey, Allie says greetings. I don't think I've seen you here before, so welcome. And we have Jace Lou says, good to see y'all. Absolutely great to see you. And God, I can't do the right. Says I did it right the first time. $1.49 super sticker. Thank you so very much for supporting my channel. And it is a diamond. Thank you so very much for that diamond. I sure do appreciate that. And that's right. Never, never, never enough, Kamran.
Well, I've been telling Stephanie to get her set up so that we can do like she's got her. She's not set up yet to take guests, and I think her show is already successful. Will be even more successful with guests on. I'd love to come on.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. When you get that, I'd really like to know, Stephanie, so I can check that out. Oh my gosh, we got 27 people watching. And Kay, and actually, since it's the summer, I've been calling this kind of like the summer camp series because, like, in the summer, school was out, so I could get to kind of concentrate on passions that I wanted to do. So one of those actually, I would read a lot, but another one was like with writing because I remember when I was a kid. I showed my mom, I said, hey, look, there's this writing contest and it says original story. What does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, well, it's something that, you make up on your own. I'm like, let me get this straight. You can make up a story on your own, not one to read in a book, but one that you could write yourself. And that just absolutely blew my mind. So, Kamran, since you have been writing for quite a long time, I just kind of like wanted to pick your brain about the craft of writing. So, when someone says writing is a craft, what does that mean to you?
Well, it is definitely a craft. When we think of craft, we think of artisanship, right? And you have to learn every art. When you're a painter, you have to learn how to paint. When you're a sculptor, you have to learn how to sculpt. I remember I once gave a talk, I think it was University of Chicago, and a student that was in the screenwriting seminar that I was teaching said, well, why? Because I was going through all the basics of story structure, act structure, and all of that, which are the basics of the craft. Mm-hmm. He said, I don't want to do any of that. I'm an artist. I want to be free to tell the story the way I want to tell it. I said, great, but first you're going to have to master the craft, because otherwise you're just deluding yourself. Because if you look at a wonderful non-linear movie like Memento, right, which goes backwards in time, if you actually play that script out moving forwards in time, it follows a 3-act structure, right? And so so you have to first master the structure in order to actually be able to challenge it and tweak it, and that's a lifelong process. And so that's one of the things that I feel that very confident with as a writer, because I teach it, and whatever you can teach is what you feel good about and what you feel you can do, is story structure. Because to make, just like when you make a statue, you have to. Michelangelo would say that he would look at a block of marble and he would see David within it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The structure of David. He would see the arcs and the movements and the physical body of David within this blank block. And that's what you have to do as an artist, because one of the biggest challenges we face as writers is that we don't know where to begin, we don't know where to go, we don't know where to end, right? And that's the biggest, most daunting, terrifying thing about writing is, am I just rambling on? What is the point of the story? And that's why you have to start with the craft of structure. That's why, if there's nothing people get out of this, what I'm sharing with you today, except one thing, I hope they get this one thing. Go back and read On Poetics by Aristotle. Good old Aristotle, right? He wrote, Aristotle is the first person that explicated the 3-act structure historically, that we at least have the historical record of. Maybe there was maybe Homer wrote about it in his days, but we don't have that, right? So we have Aristotle text, which was On Poetics, which is available in your Barnes & Nobles. It's available today. It's translated from Greek, and it is the basis of the 3-act structure. It lays out the hero's journey. It lays out the 3-act structure. Aristotle explained that the reason we have 3-act structure in storytelling is that's how we see our lives. We see beginning, middle, and end of our lives. We see ourselves as children, as adults, and as elderly. And so that's the way the human mind works. We see the story of our own life as a 3-act structure. So you have to start with a 3-act structure. You have to know where you're going. And that's true for the 3 acts of the physical plot, and that's the 3 acts of the character. It's all good. And
scared the shit out of me. I'm sorry.
It's all good. Don't worry. I'm gonna probably have beeping, all kinds of stuff going on in the background. That's the fun of all of our windows.
No.
Yeah.
But so that's when we asked what is craft. It means actually having an ability to do something, and so you have to know what that something is. Writing isn't just there are writers out there that are just making it up as they go along, and they have, I guess, their fans, right? But I don't think it's a sustainable model. I think if you can master story structure, you can become a great storyteller whose work will last past the current, the flavor of the month, which a lot of writers can become both in Hollywood and in literary writing as novelists. They become the flavor of the month and they're forgotten because their work doesn't resound with the human mind in the long term. And so master structure, you can.
Okay, cool. I like that. I did not know about Aristotle with respect to the story structure. Not that it wasn't taught to me as a story structure, but we would discuss the hero's journey. I remember in AP English, and the gold standard that we used was the Epic of Gilgamesh, actually.
Sure. And the Epic of Gilgamesh is the first, again, that we have in the historical record, the first sort of major epic story, right? But it is very much a hero's journey. Gilgamesh goes through all these adventures with the different gods and all these battles he goes through, and this journey of self-awareness and becoming a leader and a hero and overcoming himself. And that's why it's used. But think about that. Gilgamesh is written down. It's a story that's probably been passed off hundreds or even thousands of years before in oral storytelling, before it was written down. And so this 3-act structure of Gilgamesh, right, of the hero's journey, was already part of oral tradition thousands of years before the story was put down into cuneiform tablet.
Wow, that is just like awesome. Just a passerby says, know the rules and then you can break them. I think sometimes if they break them, but it makes sense. I don't know if that kind of makes sense, but it's kind of like if you know how to craft a story from beginning to end, the parts that you can break and then put back, together. That's kind of like how I say when I read stories where there's an ending that I did not see coming. And then at the end of the story, I'm like, but I did actually see that coming. Is Kamran frozen? Fat Steven, is Kamran frozen to you?
I think he's in a deep thought process.
I think he is.
I think he's staring at you intently. He's like, he got that look at the bar like, hey, ladies, what's going on? I just told you about the 3 trifecta. How you doing?
Let's see. I'm pretty sure he'll come back in. But yeah, that's with that one. Yeah, but some people, it's like you know how to you know the rules, and then you can break them. I want to say almost like when M. Night Shyamalan was actually writing good stuff, like The Sixth Sense. That just like threw me at the end, and then it's like, wait a minute, but all the clues were there, everything was there. We just didn't see it.
Yeah, because we were too busy look not seeing it from a perspective. Like that even goes back to the whole you remember Echo Base when we were talking about the perspectives and like Picard, right? It's the same type of thing when you first realize the paradox. It's the same type of thing with M. Night Shyamalan, the way he was able to deliver the story and the what the twist kind of stuff.
Hmm.
It was the same type of seeing things differently.
I think and that's one of the things. Cameron lost internet. Oh, let's see. He should be back in a little bit.
I
Hopefully be
didn't do
back
it.
in a little bit. I know.
I am now back to my normal status as co-host. Cameron is gone, but yeah,
He should be back. He should be back in a little bit.
that's a good one. The Islington girl says the hero's journey or the villain's descent. What about the anti-hero's descent or the reluctant villain's journey?
Yeah, really sorry. I was sorry. I was
It's okay.
checking.
No woman.
I was checking with Cameron
Oh, good.
really quick. There he is. Hey.
So the universe doesn't want me to tell everyone how to become a great storyteller, but I'm fighting it. And I'm on my phone because for whatever reason, my internet has gone down. And so I don't know, I actually have to do work. So hopefully it'll come back. But let's see how long I can keep it going on the phone. So I apologize to your wonderful and patient viewers, but I will try to keep it going.
Oh, no problem. No problem. Let me ask this question of you that was asked by just a passerby. It says, question for Kamran. Paul Verhoeven turned you down in your Crusade script?
Yes, I said that on another live stream, I think a few days ago. Someone had brought up that you really should get in touch with Paul Verhoeven because he's been trying to get this Crusades project made for years. And I said, yes, I've already been through that journey. He actually was trying to, I think he has a feature version of Crusades that he's trying to do for years. And he was trying to get Mr. Verhoeven, I'm a huge fan of his work. He was trying to get a BBC series, I believe, an epic series on the Third Crusade, Richard the Lionheart versus Saladin, which is what my novel is about, which is based on an original screenplay I wrote. And so, of course, my agents, this must have been 3 years ago, my agents, when they heard about that, they immediately got in touch with Mr. Verhoeven, and they sent him my script. And ultimately, he already had a friend. He had a friend, I believe, was a British writer that he wanted to work with, so he declined to work with me. Regrettably, the British writer was not able to execute it, and that show never got made. So again, part of the challenge is everyone in the industry, understandably, prefers to work with people they know, their friends. That's human nature.
Yeah.
I regret that when it comes especially to topics like this that deal with the Middle East or Islam, when I'm sort of very obviously the choice to be the best writer, that people will say, yeah, that's all fine and well, but my white British friend can do a better job, and he can't, and he didn't execute it. So I hope Mr. Verhoeven and I get to work together in the future, but that's part of the challenge of, despite 20 years of having a career and having had some real success, I'm not in the club. And when you're not in the club protects itself, and the club has its own members, and they'll always be the first ones who get the opportunity. But strangely enough, whenever I'm denied an opportunity like that, by strange coincidence, it never actually moves forward. It's almost as if God was giving them, here's your solution. Oh, you don't want it? Okay, well, you're not going to get to do it. Okay. And so that's happened to me about 6 or 7 times in my career, where major celebrities I've crossed their paths, and they're doing a project that I'm perfect for, and they're like, well, I don't know who this guy is. He's not in the club. He's not one of my buddies, and they decline the gift that was given them, and then the project dies on the vine every single time. So it is what it is, and I wish Mr. Verhoeven well, and I'll be around if he ever wants to do it again.
And that's really a shame. I mean, Paul Verhoeven is one of my favorite directors. Absolutely. Especially Starship Troopers. I freaking love that movie.
He's a scholar. He's a scholar of early Christianity. He's written a wonderful book about Jesus from a scholarly point of view. He's a very
really.
Yeah, I have it. It's a great book on the historical scholarship of what we can know about Jesus outside of sort of the New Testament faith presentation, and it's a very well
Right.
done book.
Yeah, nepotism. Yeah, that's a shame because it's like I've heard that story repeatedly from friends of mine who live in Hollywood. They're just like, it's not always about who has the best talent. A lot of times it's about who you know and
No,
who knows
to
you.
my knowledge, it's never been about who has the best talent.
Yeah.
It is almost completely who you know,
Hmm.
and
And
hopefully
that just,
the person will have some talent. But it is really, if you don't know the person, your talent doesn't matter.
and that's really a shame. It's like people whose craft should have been able to shine and bless and entertain other people, then it doesn't happen. But that's the lovely Hollywood machine. And speaking of the Hollywood machine, this woman comes up like a bad penny. I'm so not kidding. Leslye Hedland. Actually, hold on a second. I'm going to
Fred
reshare because
Flintstone?
I forgot to tick the Fred Flintstone. Fred Flintstone. But yeah, but Leslye Hedland. So for people who haven't known, and this has been out there talked about that Leslye Hedland was going to get a Star Wars show, and then at the Disney Investors event, up there, on the big, screen where you had Kathleen
Yeah.
Kennedy in front, looking like a kind of like the emperor. You see all these new Disney Plus shows that are up there, that I like to call vapor shows. Because it was kind of just up there in name only. It seemed like to me to just gauge interest because it was just, oh, this is what we're planning for the next 10 years.
Yeah, they wanted to see
And
what the applause level was with each thing they presented. Yes.
exactly. And people like me and other YouTubers were like, okay, let's start a death pool right now. Which one is going to be the first ones, to start dropping off, and going. Don't talk about Lucasfilm, the Gremlins. But we got to talk about it because they put it out there. And apparently, Leslye Hedland had an interview with the AV Club, which is kind of like a cross between the Mary Sue and We've Got This Covered and CBR. So Data Racer, who's awesome when he's picking up stuff.
Yeah.
So he says, Leslye Hedland interview for her new show. Thinks Star Wars is about politics and fans' opinions aren't valid. Hired a writer who's never seen Star Wars. Now that second point, it's a difference between, and this is just me and Kamran, I'd love your opinion. If you hire someone who's a good writer, they've never seen Star Wars, but the first thing they're saying is get me everything about it so I can digest it and find out how to approach it that way. I don't mind if it's somebody like that, but something tells me that's not the case when it comes to this. And of course, the next one is female and queer representation is a top priority.
Fresh to the voice. That's the standard mantra, right? I guess that's her priority.
Yeah. I literally cry whenever I see it. And maybe this is just me, but to me, it seems kind of selfish in a way. It doesn't seem to be about, we're telling new stories about Star Wars rooted in the lore, and we want to share that with all of you. It's more like I want to write Star Wars in the incarnation that I see it. So for some folks who don't really know about Leslye Hedland and all of that, Kamran, you want to kind of give us a primer from the way you know it?
Well, I don't know Miss Hedland, and our paths have never crossed. It's probably because she's very deep in the club, and I'm, the person the club doesn't want in there. But for her background is, as you stated, he's been allegedly given this TV show that we've been hearing about. We've seen no evidence it's ever going to get made, but we keep hearing about it. By Miss Kennedy as sort of her special thing.
Oh no, we
Mr. Robot.
We can't lose Kamran here.
That's as far as No.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. No, Lucasfilm. No, Lucasfilm. No, Lucasfilm. Holy crap.
It's perfect because Darius just sent a popcorn super sticker.
Hey, Darius. Thank you so much for that $1.49 super sticker with the popcorn. Yeah, Kamran had to get on his phone because his internet at home went out.
He's talking.
But we've heard nothing more.
Oh no.
We can't lose Kamran.
This is hilarious. Sorry.
We can't lose. Not yet. Oh shoot. Okay, we'll let him come back. But I think basically what he was saying, it's like he's not in the in crowd, kind of like how Leslye Hedland kind of is. But the Islington girl, hello. No, she's totally making this for herself. So good luck having that show for yourself. No one else is asking for it. And that's kind of how I feel, as well. There's so many. I mean, as a director, I can understand as a producer, you're going to have a vision that you want. But it seems like it's all about her representation. Hey, Kamran.
So this
There
has
you go.
happened
I thought it
before
was
on other
just
channels. It happened on Purple Valkyrie. It happened on Purple Valkyrie that I have a tendency when I start talking about Lucasfilm for the to happen.
Lucasfilm Gremlins.
Yeah, Lucasfilm Gremlins. Well, anyone who's been following me knows that I've been attacked by Lucasfilm very aggressively, and they got me booted off Twitter. They've been attacking me with bots in the last few days. They really don't like that I'm talking about them because I'm a real problem as someone who is actually a working writer in the industry who's not a low-level writer. To be actually that aggressively open about it is something that's really a problem for the system. But this is the system. There's an old saying, which it is better to have your enemy inside the tent pissing out than outside the tent pissing in. And the industry decided a long time ago, Kamran Pasha is somebody that, and as a result, I don't have any loyalty to the system. I'll keep speaking the truth.
Well, I certainly hope so. Or at least hope, guys. We need your voice out there. Dominic Leroy says, Kamran, what is your prediction about former Weinstein personal assistant Star Wars show? And that's pretty much what she is. Weinstein's former personal assistant.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that. Miss Hedland was not a long-term writer and suddenly got this TV show. Her background is primarily she was the personal assistant of Harvey Weinstein, the disgraced producer, who was infamous for his sexual escapades and his sexual harassment and his cast couch, infamous for decades. But he was finally, the industry decided we're going to make him the fall guy to cover the rest of us because he's an obviously well-known predator. And so he was brought down. And so Ms. Hedland suddenly goes from that to becoming a writer on Star Wars. Right? And so that's not a normal progression.
I can't stand you, Lucasfilm. Oh, just when he's getting to the good part. Holy crap. Yeah, John Ware. Yeah, he's using his phone. So I don't know if he's got an Ethernet adapter or not.
But if the internet's down, it wouldn't matter anyways.
Yeah. So he would have to be using either 3G. Thank you, Flicks by Cody, for that $2 super chat. I appreciate that. Leslye Lego Hedland. Oh no.
Oh come on, it's Fred Flintstone.
It is funny because I'm picturing it. Hey, Kamran.
So this is going to be interesting because whenever I need to talk about this particular topic, this kind of drama happens, and so it's an interesting coincidence.
Very. Yeah. Well, we're gonna keep working around as much as we possibly
Are you guys
can.
there? Hello?
Yeah, we're here. Can you hear us?
There's going to be a delay since you're on your mobile. So it might
Oh, okay. Like a couple of seconds.
All right, guys, let me do this. I'm gonna sign off and try to come back on. And,
Okay.
I'm gonna try. I've rebooted my computer, and I'll see if that works.
Okay, cool.
If you come back in a minute, please continue to build up. Dana.
Okay. Cool. I'll just go through the chat while you reboot. So let's see. Oh, there's Dominic Leroy. Hello from France. You're so from France. 58 of you guys watching. Thank you so very much. Kamran's gonna reboot and come back. So hopefully that'll smooth the issues out. This show will never be made. I'm really leaning. That's what I'm thinking, Stephanie.
No.
I'm thinking this is just it's vapor. It's vapor show. Like with the Lando show, they were talking about that. No one's heard a word about that. This happened to pop up. We didn't hear anything about this I don't think we've heard anything since the investors event.
No, we haven't. The same with the Lando series. The problem is it's really hard to find consent forms for toasters, so it's gonna take a while.
Hey, Kamran.
Okay, so let's see if they're going to let me talk about this. Thank you. I've rebooted my computer. Let's see how long I can talk about this topic, because I've never had this problem unless I talk specifically about Lucasfilm on live streams. This also happened with Purple Valkyrie when I had to literally every time I would bring up Lucasfilm, my feed would end every single time. When I talked about other topics, the feed was fine. So let's see how long we can keep this going. It's happened now a few times, so it's an interesting coincidence that keeps happening on that topic.
Okay, cool. So
we were talking about Ms. Hedland, right? And
yeah,
so
we were talking about Ms. Hedland. Mm-hmm.
What I was saying before I was booted off the system was that Ms. Hedland's only real background before she became this alleged writer of this alleged television series is that she was the personal assistant of Harvey Weinstein, a disgraced, Hollywood producer, well-known sexual predator. We all knew he was a sexual predator 20 years ago, 30 years ago. But he finally decided, okay, it's time for him to take the fall so the spotlight doesn't come on the rest of us, right? But so she goes from that position to suddenly becoming an inner circle member of Miss Kathleen Kennedy and suddenly be given her own TV show as a showrunner with no experience to do so. And then in her own interview, she doesn't seem to know anything about Star Wars. In her own interview, she said, "I love all of them." When asked which is her favorite movie, because she can't actually answer which one it is, because then I don't know that she's seen any of them. But the position she's in gives her tremendous power because she literally knows where all the bodies are buried, right? Being the person that she is. And I've had friends that worked at Weinstein Company. I worked on a Weinstein production, so I know some things about this, and which is that the role she plays very much, I won't say about her specifically, but often the role of that person, the personal assistant of someone like that, their job often is about procuring the services of various actresses and about serving as the go-between for various unethical activities. As a result, when you're that person, if you are that person can have the knowledge of a lot of people's personal secrets, right? A lot of very powerful people. When I said Mr. Weinstein was brought down because the system needed him to take the fall for what they themselves are doing, when anyone in the position of being the right hand of such a person knows who else has done such things and who has participated in this culture, and as a result, they have tremendous blackmail ability. Now, that's the normal situation anybody in the town would be who was the right hand of such a figure. So that's a history of these kinds of things. Whether Ms. Hedland has any such knowledge, I cannot say. I don't have any knowledge to that effect. I don't know her. But, it is certainly a fascinating journey to go from the personal assistant of this disgraced producer to having your own TV show without any background in television. So, that's that. But what it also reveals is the power of the club, right? There's lots of people. There's a lot of very successful female writers that I know who could have written The Acolyte, but it's not given to them. It's given to someone like this, right? Which means it was never about The Acolyte. It wasn't about anything else. It was about personal relationships and personal power. And that's what this situation is.
Just to remind...
Echo.
I hear my echo. I was going to say, just to remind people of who Leslye Hedland is, and I think this came out.
White women.
Hold on a second. I'm not going to play all of it because I don't want to get claimed. But this, like Data Racer says, this is who Disney hired to write the new all-female Star Wars series.
Just say that, like, I think white women need to kind of step up their game, to be quite honest. Like, sorry, but I'm calling you bitches out. Like,
So you're going to hate yourself that much that that's what you're going to say?
No, but that's the standard white woman trope, which is like I've worked with a woke white woman before, and there's always the full humility around it because they know that they have tremendous power in the current moment in Hollywood. They can hide behind Me Too and everything else to advance themselves at the expense of everyone else, particularly minorities. So in order to deflect from their obvious power, they have to denigrate it.
Absolutely. But yeah, I remember seeing that. I'm just like, this is the person, that you're gonna hire. And I did see the Islington girl. I did see your Doomacorn. So let me honor your Doomacorn really quick. If I can find the video. Oh, here we go.
I come bearing horrible tidings of war from the
More flappy.
So Dominic Leroy says, but Kamran, what is your prediction about the show itself? I guess Dominic is asking, do you believe that this show is going to happen, or do you believe it's, vapor show where it's just being talked about? But
I don't believe the show is ever going to happen. I don't believe the show is ever going to go past the development stage, right? When she talks about hiring writers, I've worked on writers' rooms of shows that never happened. I worked on the Harvey Weinstein project. I worked with Oliver Stone on a writers' room where we wrote all the scripts for this wonderful show about Guantanamo Bay, about dramatizing the legal trials of alleged Al Qaeda members at Guantanamo Bay. We had all the scripts. It never went. So there's lots of that's a very normal thing to have the writers' room. You pay lots of money for the scripts and you never film one of them. And I think that's what this circumstance is. I don't believe for 1 second the show is ever going to hit the air. I don't think I don't think it was ever going to hit the air. I think it was greenlit. Excuse me. I would think it was announced. From what I understand, it wasn't even announced by Disney. It was announced by Ms. Kennedy just announcing the show at a time when she was under tremendous attack for The Last Jedi, the failure of Solo, and the rise of The Mandalorian. And so suddenly she preemptively announced this show with her buddy that they were going to do this. And I don't recall that was a formal press release from Disney. It was just her own sort of subverting that and putting that out there. And my understanding is that was one of those fait accompli moments where I'm going to tell you what I'm doing and we're making the show. And I dare you now to counter me in the press and say, no, it's like a dare to Iger. Like, I think Mr. Iger was still there. It's like, I dare you to tell the press you're not going to do this all female show. I dare you to do it. You won't be able to. So I've just made you do the show. And the response is, sure, you've made me pay for a writer's room. You haven't made me do the show.
No, because if you remember, it was like a big PowerPoint, I call it PowerPoint slide, with like show salad, where just all this stuff was up there. And we're just like, how the heck are they gonna, okay, fine. It makes you look good by saying, oh, this is gonna happen. But it was an investor event, which basically was to tell them, please don't pull your money out of Disney, which is pretty much what it was. Because I couldn't see that happening, like, say, at a stockholder event or anything like that, because it wasn't even talked on the earnings call, I think, the month prior, because they weren't even asking questions about that. They're like, well, just wait for an investor event.
Nobody knows about it. Nobody cares about it. Even the alleged, woke Star Wars fans who support the current iteration of Lucasfilm don't care about this show. They never talk about it, right? Nobody cares about this thing. And as our friend Valiant Renegade here wrote the super chat, while I will say development doesn't cost nothing, people like me get paid, and that can be quite substantial. It isn't the cost of production.
So Valiant Renegade for $10. Thank you so much. And thank you for being a channel member. The Acolyte will likely never happen. Yeah, that's pretty much what we're saying too. We are getting this Hedland thing because of Pride Month. Yeah, I'm embarrassed to say I didn't see that coming, but yeah.
It's just a headline because she's talking about I care about LGBTQ issues or whatever, and I'm gonna make that part of my show. That's all this is. It's not even PR for her show because the show doesn't exist. It's personal PR. It's a virtue signaling personal PR.
Yeah, until a camera actually rolls, don't believe it. Which is why I called it a vapor show. Yeah, development costs nothing. Of course, Cameron's saying there's
There
something,
is a
there's
cost. And, I
startup
mean,
development.
if you have a writer's room, it can cost up to $1 million depending on the level of writers. But that's not $200 million.
Mm. And another one that Valiant Renegade sent. Thank you. You're so generous. For $5, thank you. Put it right up there with the Ryan Johnson trilogy in the never happening drawer.
Yeah.
You know, go ahead.
That's exactly what this is. I mean, this is all the leftover stuff from the Kathleen Kennedy dead regime. And the people are just milking it for themselves. I don't even know that Miss Kennedy authorized Ms. Hedland to start talking about this thing. I think she's just like, I got this shtick on my resume. Let me use it to milk what I can. This is a perfect moment. Pride Month that's going to advance me in this town. You know,
it's just like something. Because again, it came from like the AV Club, which is like a blog site I hadn't even heard of, except in passing, maybe a couple of days ago. It wasn't like
nobody serious is going to run this thing.
Exactly. It's not like it's going to run in Deadline or Variety or the Hollywood Reporter or anything like that. It's some site we never heard of. Just to get it out there, like, hey, remember, about the acolyte and the whole thing with her seeing herself as well. I think representation is important for her to see that representation above, say, does the story make sense? Are you making a story that appeals to people regardless of what your personal POV is? And that's not the thing that I get. So yeah, like you were saying, it's like comes from some site that no one's ever really heard of. It's not in the regular, Hollywood trades. It seems more of just, don't forget about me. I'm out here with my show that might happen to show up, but there's no enthusiasm.
I mean, people aren't even aware of it, and the industry is not even talking about it. And so people are talking about The Mandalorian. They're talking about these other shows, that are allegedly in development. Boba Fett and all this other stuff, right? So yeah, this is just this is just Hollywood flash and glitter. And after 20 years of it bores me because I've spent 20 years of my life and of my career, doing serious work. I create scripts, I write them, I do things, I get involved in production shows, crew, all that stuff. This is just hot air, and hot air gets you so far, and it can get you quite far in this industry, but it's not sustainable in the long run here. And so we're not at the hot air stage of this project and of this person's journey.
Right. Valiant is right, and I believe they dragged it out to whip up the fans' ire. I haven't seen
nobody cares
ire as much as I've seen a lot of just clowning this whole thing. It seems to be, look at what they're dragging out now. And people really seem to be making fun and light of it because people just don't care. It's like no one was really interested in this one, especially after Rangers of the New Republic that got 86, because people were interested in that because
Miss Corrado.
Exactly, because of Miss Corrado, that went away, and it's like it's deflated any kind of real interest, really.
Well, there was never any interest in this project at all. There was never any interest whatsoever, and because it was an illusory project that was created for PR political purposes. It was never even a real thing.
The thing is, like I'm literally, when we're talking about this, it's great hearing the perceptions, like the conversation, the perspectives, but I'm looking at her face. I'm looking at that pretentious laugh. I'm going through all the data racer stuff, and I am literally yawning and wanting to just take a nap, because not only do I not care, like Cameron says, and Reina as well, we're literally at the point now where we sit there and we don't see, oh yay, a Star Wars show that could be potentially good. Like, oh great, another thing attached with the taint that we call Disney. And from there, you know what I mean? It's like a virus thing. Like, it doesn't matter if it's Star Wars or it's one of Disney's animated films becoming a real life action, or it's Marvel. We don't hear those separate properties anymore. We only hear Disney, and we automatically, depending on the persona and the personality, we're only seeing three things: what's being virtue signaled, what is the main point they're trying to prove, and again, there's nothing with actual story.
Yeah, I had Valiant Renegade. She also did an interview with some YouTuber. And I don't remember the name, but yeah, she'd done it, an interview with the YouTuber who I hadn't heard of at all.
They may be reaching out to her. She may be reaching out to them.
That's what I'm thinking. It's not like
it's not like she's
all right,
whatever. You go keep talking about.
Yeah,
it's
like we're not doing the show, so go ahead and go talk to people. Whatever.
I'll give you a thing from Hollywood. You're finished when they stop giving you notes. Like we work on a TV show, so when I've worked on a TV show, and you've written the script, handed it into the studio, the network, and they're like, "Hey, great, it's great. Go ahead and film it." You're done. So they've all checked out. It doesn't matter. When you're not getting them engaged, they don't care anymore. You could film a blank screen and put it up for that hour. They're done with the show, right? And I've been in those situations where I'm staff on the show, and it's like, oh, we stopped getting notes. We all start getting our resumes out, calling our agents. Okay, if the studio and the network have nothing to say to us, they're like, it's great, it's perfect. It means we're done. And everyone is Disney's like, yeah, keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. They don't care. They're not engaged.
Like the kiss of death. Oh man. Oh, Nick McCabe for 15 Australian dollars. Thank you so much. Says from Sam and me, and for being awesome. Keep up the great work. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it. The Australian brothers from down under. Thank you so very much. Let's see. Yeah. She's trying to be relevant. Because when I saw it, I'm like, who? Oh yeah, that chick.
Yeah, and it's a little sad because I don't think it's Kathleen Kennedy saying go out, my young acolyte, and do this. Right? It's just like, oh, you're still okay, good. You're still doing that. I'm planning my vacation. You could do what you got to do.
Yeah, it's like keep out there. Yeah, keep the word about out there.
I'm sure it's gonna work out for you next. I'm gonna go work on. I'm gonna sit on the set of Indiana Jones. I'm gonna go do that. You good luck to you.
I just one of the and actually these are a lot of points from the AV Club, but Data Racer actually had the best bullet points about the whole thing.
Yeah, he's very good at that. He's very good at compiling.
Yeah, he's awesome. I love his stuff. So where she thinks Star Wars is about politics and fan opinions aren't valid, I think one of the quotes that she said was like, "Oh, well, Star Wars was always political. So of course we're going to have
it was political in an archetypal way." That's the thing, is it was political, of course, because it's drama. It's about an empire. It's about a rebellion. So that's inherently political. And you can take that archetype and apply it to the Vietnam War. You can apply it to the Civil War. You can apply it to the Revolutionary War. You can apply it to any kind of historical circumstance that you want. You can apply it to people rising up against the Roman Empire. It's an archetypal story, right? And the idea that's been utilized by this sort of generation of wankers is that Star Wars is always about contemporary politics. No, it is not about that. It is about ideas. It's about Plato's Republic in those idealistic sense of politics.
I know when I read that, I'm like, yeah, Star Wars had a political framework, and they kind of used it as an example, like based on like what happened, in the 1930s and 1940s over in Europe. And they used that, but it wasn't agenda driven, if you get my point. It wasn't like
about an idea of an authoritarian government and people fighting against that. That's happened throughout history. It's happening right now in the news.
Exactly. Star Wars politics equal empire versus rebellion, nothing more. Injecting other modern politics eradicates the timeless nature of the stories. To bring up another IP is like with Star Trek Picard. That's nothing like Star Trek. Star Trek had some political themes, but they wrapped it up in a sci-fi story. They weren't
Roddenberry's vision of the future, right?
Right.
And it wasn't people think it's an idealistic vision. There's still war, there's still conflict, there's still injustice in that vision. It's in the original series, it's in the Next Generation, it's in Deep Space Nine in particular, right? And so there's no storytelling in an idealized world. The Starfleet represents an ideal that they're still struggling with, and imperfect human beings are implementing it, and in a galaxy that doesn't share those ideals.
Right, exactly. They would find a way to claim the Iliad is about modern politics. Yeah, I believe they try to do that.
Well, the Iliad is a Me Too story. You got this woman, right? Who's being, and it's been misrepresented. She falsely seduced this poor prince, whatever, and ran away with him. In fact, I think they even did that in sort of the version of Troy that they did with that was done a few years ago, where it wasn't really about Helen, running away with somebody else. That was just an political thing. But they can try to rework the Iliad, but the Iliad works because it understands human dynamic. Something as simple as jealousy can cause people to destroy each other on a civilizational level.
I did not get to read the Iliad in high school. Instead, we read Oedipus.
Well, that's certainly relevant today.
that was. I'm like, wow, this is pretty freaky. You're letting us read this, and okay, all right, cool. Chrissy seduced poor Agamemnon. I'm gonna actually have to sit down and
it's worth reading. Look, these stories. There's the Odyssey. They're great stories.
The Odyssey, I did. It was one of those where it was like, okay, if I'm gonna read these classics, I'm gonna read them in school. But now it's like, how come we didn't get to read that one? Okay, but
so I've got about 5 more minutes, and I know this hasn't been the most stable, live stream, and I apologize too because of these strange technical difficulties whenever I mention a certain topic. No. What more can I provide to your audience in the time that I've got?
Well, the last question that I want to ask. Oh, Fast Steven, do you have something to ask?
Yeah, Cameron, do you have like a PayPal link where we can get you like some internet bunny ears so the next time your internet goes down, we can have you prepared? I just wanted to be a little funny. You could smile, sir. It was a good one. Come on. It took me 5 minutes.
I'm smiling. That's my smile.
No, I thought that was the smile, like the Grinch thing. I'm going to stab him.
That's what you're going to get for that. So let's keep
okay.
So I guess the last question that I would ask is, in your opinion, what do you think is the difference between good writing and great writing?
Well, good writing and great writing, it's good writing is when you follow just the technical stuff. Remember, we started off talking about you need to understand Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. You need to understand that stuff, right? That's going to get you to good writing, right? You need that as a foundation. Great writing is when you write from the heart. When you write something that is from a place of deep passion, deep honesty, deep truth, and on top of a story structure that works. Because I'm sure Mr. Johnson can claim that The Last Jedi came from a place of deep passion. I don't actually think it did. You don't feel any love in that, even for its own material, right? But when you love something, the magic can be felt by the reader. Every time I've written a script that is technically proficient, that follows, I love horror movies. I've written several of them, and when I just write a horror movie just because I'm trying to make money and pay my next month's rent or whatever, and horror is a very popular genre that always has some buyer, right? When I just write it for that purpose, it's always technically proficient. The scares are there, the structure is there, but I never sell that. Whenever I've written something that my agents have said, there's no market for that, Cameron, what are you doing? But I've written it from love, from passion, I've always sold it. I've always had magic happen. And that's what it is. So great writing comes from the heart. It comes from love, and people can feel it. People can feel your love, just like they watch something like The Last Jedi and they feel there's no love there. They feel that. They feel that the writer doesn't even love his own material, right? And so they can feel that's the revulsion we all felt from that film. It was a writer that didn't even forget that he didn't like Star Wars. He didn't like his own work, right? He didn't care enough he didn't care enough about his craft to even care about it. And you can feel that on a page, and it repels you. And so that's good writing, great writing, and bad writing. I hope that's a helpful answer.
It is. So I'd say give us like a film or television example of, say, the difference between good writing and great writing.
Can I ask a quick addition to that?
I'm sorry,
Cameron. Cameron, you just explained the difference between good writing and great writing, right? But the thing is now, is that art dying by the way media, Hollywood is being ran, and pretty much siphoned through, let's say, the cliques and groups that just want to smell their own farts in a way?
Well, I mean, but that's always been the problem. I mean, we're seeing it more now, and we have a venue through online, YouTube, and others to complain about it, so it feels like it's bigger. But Hollywood has always been producing garbage and a few good movies. That's always been the case, right?
So the emphasis isn't greater.
Yeah, it is what it is. It's good stuff and great stuff still gets made against all odds. great stuff is The Mandalorian, right? One can still find flaws with it, blah 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 blah, but you can tell Jon Favreau, Mr. Filoni are very much in love with their material. You can feel the love coming through the craftsmanship of that show. And so, that's an example. If you talk about what's modern and what's relevant to our audience, I think The Expanse is an example of great writing coming from a place of great love. I think Babylon 5 was an example of that. I think Battlestar, love it. The latest Battlestar Galactica was an example of someone, Ron Moore, who loved the material. And
what about the Orville?
I have not watched the Orville, but people love it, and so I'm assuming people really respond. They say it's the real Star Trek. From what I've heard, it sounds like it's coming from a place of love. And so those are the things that are out there, and they are out there. You have great writers like Ron Moore who are still out there creating new shows. I have not seen this for Mankind show about the women that go to the moon, but people seem to really like it. And that's
I haven't seen that.
For Mankind.
That's a Ron Moore show, and Ron Moore is a great iconic figure. I've worked with his old colleague Ira Stephen Bear on who created Deep Space Nine. I worked with him on Twilight Zone. Whatever he does with love and craftsmanship. So that's still out there. We grumble a lot about the mediocre writing and the mediocre stuff, but people are still out there getting good things made and getting great things
Farscape. Yeah, Farscape, definitely. I can't believe I forgot about Farscape.
Invincible's a good animated one too.
Yeah. And going back to the 80s, the original V miniseries was made with love. It was such an incredible idea to have these city-sized spaceships come in and these reptilian.
Yeah.
I mean, that's later ripped off in Independence Day, right? Like that Independence Day was like, wow, that's already done 20 years before in V on a TV miniseries, right? So that's out there. The good writing, you say great good writing. A lot of the good writing that doesn't have the same heart, but it's perfectly entertaining. Is a lot of the stuff you see on CBS procedurals, like if you watch it in these NCI shows or whatever, they're perfectly fine. The Law and Order was good writing. It wasn't necessarily great writing, but it's comfortable writing. You know what's going to happen every time you watch it, and so that continues. And there will always be that. And then we see the bad writing, and we see the stuff that comes from a place of hatred for the underlying material and ultimately hatred for yourself for producing this, because your own soul is, in my spiritual view, connected to God and wants to create wonderful things. So when you shut your soul down with your rational mind, which is saying, I'm not going to write what I love, but I'm going to write these agendas and this subversion and this politics and this and that, your mind is fighting your soul, and the work, that conflict comes out in ugly work, which is The Last Jedi and other such material that we've seen, because those aren't from the heart, they're not from the soul, they're from someone thinking that these are good ideas rather than and you can tell they don't feel they're good ideas.
Right. Wow. I love it when Cameron comes on, because he just breaks it down, where we can just kind of just like, digest all of that. And I know you do have to go. So
I do have to go, and I apologize that this was
out of there. Oh, no problem. It's like we'll get you back on. But yeah, do you have anything some new crazy story coming up? Is there anything that you're appearing on that you want to let the folks here know about before you run out?
I'm just doing my own thing. I'm out there. I'm trying to sell a few shows right now. I've been through an interesting process where I've been pitching one show I'm developing with some of the studios, and the way you're not going to sell the show, how you're not going to sell the show is when the pitch begins with the executive going, oh, I'm so, our studio is committed to diverse storytelling, and our studio is committed to finding the next diverse showrunners and writers. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to sell this thing.
Oh, man.
The moment they start saying that crap, right? It's like, and I put that on Twitter today, whenever the studio, I was referencing this recent series of pitches I've done, where whenever they start with that speech, I'm like, what the speech is actually saying, we're really looking to promote diverse writers. They're saying, we're really looking to promote the Friends of J.J. Abrams. That's what we're trying to do. But we're not going to mind you.
I did see that tweet, and I'm just like,
because I've now gone through a couple of these where I'm like, the moment I went through one pitch recently on this project where after that speech, the non-writing producer on there started giving a long praising of Cameron's thing before we went into the pitch, and he said, Cameron has been out there fighting for 20 years. He's incredible, Pakistani writer, and we this is if we're looking to promote diversity, this is the guy, right? He's ready to run his own show. He's ready to be a powerful voice in this industry. And I'm like thinking to myself, yeah, you're just giving him all the reasons not to give me this job, aren't you? That's the last thing they want. They want a brown guy they can't control running this whole show. That's the last thing you
no,
want to
we
highlight.
can't have that. They're gonna blow smoke up your behind before.
Yeah, and when I heard that, I was like, here we go. That's just highlight for them all the reasons why they shouldn't give
Oh man,
power, because I'll actually be a threat to their system, right?
Mhm.
That's so that's the silliness of this town. But despite that, you notice I'm still here, despite all my grumbling and despite all my defeat, I'm still doing it.
Exactly. And we're glad. We're so glad you're here. Glad you're here. And folks, thank you so much for joining us as well, hanging out with us. Please do subscribe to Kamran's YouTube channel as well. We'll have all the social media links in the description. And again, thanks to all of you for being here. We will see you next time. Bye.